Welcome into the double FU, the FU times two. This is the Fantasy Football Universe. I'm Jeremy Schulman, hashtag Michael Lynn Evans III. That's a mainstay every single week. Mike Evans going absolutely off, gets another beautiful matchup. We'll talk about that in a second. This is Jesse Muller, hashtag Puka Luka. You talk about a guy who's come in and just received double-digit targets. Dare I say the Cooper Cup role? It is Puka Nacua since he's entered the league, absolutely crushing it. This is Jesse today. We're going to talk about our Week 14 wide receiver rankings. But first, Jesse, what's going on?
Hey, you know, I love me some Puka. There was some fun discussion this offseason where everyone was like, worried Cooper Cup was going to be the guy. And I was like, I don't know, man. He just had the greatest rookie season of all time. Maybe we should bet on that guy again. It's worked out really well. But, yeah, there's a lot of good wide receivers this week. I feel much better about the wide receivers than I do running backs. So, yeah, if you have wide receivers this week, you're going good, strong until you get about to, I don't know, wide receiver 30-ish. And even some of those guys you can make a case for. So, feeling pretty good, even though it's bipocalypse, all that fun stuff. The wide receivers seem like they're not hit as hard as the other positions are. So, if you got a bunch of wide receivers, fire them up this week, folks. Should be good.
We'll see. We're getting some Thursday practice reports in already, and already a lot of guys not practicing. But let's hope, Mike Evans included. But let's hope these guys see the field on Sunday. So we'll get right into it here, talking about our tier one. That is wide receivers 1 through 6. Again, these are our Fantasy Football Universe consensus rankings. That's myself, Jesse, and SC. Our rankings for Week 14 in the Bipocalypse 2024, the year of our Lord. Jamar Chase comes in at number 1 at Dallas. A.J. Brown at 2, playing Carolina. A.J. Brown should really be 1, but Jamar Chase going to Jamar Chase. Number 3 is Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Green Bay in a smash, ridiculously juicy point bonanza in Detroit. Justin Jefferson at 4 versus Atlanta. Puka Nacua, your guy, versus Buffalo, coming in at 5. He's my wide receiver 4 this week. And Mike Evans coming in at 6. He's my wide receiver 5 this week versus Las Vegas. These guys are set to smash. Those guys are set to smash so much, I bumped Justin Jefferson down to 6, which sounds stupid, but, there is the Sam Darnold effect. So who do you want to talk about in this top tier of guys?
I mean, they're so good, right? All these guys are must starts if you get into it. So Jamar Chase is on another stratosphere of every wide receiver in the NFL right now. What he's doing, his role, his usage, everything. This is like the peak Cooper Cup season. This is like CeeDee Lamb's second half of the year last year, where he was just head and shoulders above everyone else. Week in and week out, Jamar Chase is by far the best wide receiver in the NFL for fantasy production. And you're going up against Dallas this week. So you don't overthink it. It's across the board. We're all like, yeah, we're not even messing with this one. He is one. But you get these other guys, A.J. Brown. I know Carolina, from a fantasy perspective, does not give a ton of points to wide receivers because they get gouged at other positions. The difference is, like, even A.J. Brown on limited volume can still go $150 because they're probably not going to have to pass a lot. It doesn't matter. And he talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. His target share and stuff has gone down a little bit this year, but the offense is so good. He's been a super high floor. He's had a couple down weeks, but you still get these blow-up games of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like he had against Jacksonville the other day where he had 2 touchdowns, $160. Like that's always in his range of outcomes. And against Green Bay, he had basically, 7 for 56 and a touchdown. I could easily see that happening, if not higher this week, because it's in the dome. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, all these guys, you just fire them up, man. It's going to be fun stuff.
I love it. Mike Evans against Carolina last week, wide receiver 4, 12 targets, 8 for 118 and 1. I do not see a reason why he cannot repeat that performance here against the atrocious Las Vegas Raiders, who can't do much of anything, and Baker is balling. And Puka, you mentioned him, Amon-Ra. I mean, these are the guys who you just set it and forget it. You lock them into your lineups. We don't need to talk too much about it. You can juggle them around, but if you're putting any of those guys below 6, you shouldn't be. You just shouldn't be. So let's move on to tier 2. Let's talk about our wide receivers 7 through 12. There is a clear tier break, but these are guys you are still very, very comfortable firing up in a must-win Week 14 matchup. We got T. Higgins at 7. His teammate Jamar Chase at 1. T at 7 against Dallas. Cooper Kupp at 8 going up against Buffalo in Los Angeles. That helps being at home. CeeDee Lamb, another one who did not practice this week. He is our Thursday rather. He is our wide receiver 9, playing the atrocious Cincinnati Bengals defense. Drake London at 10 at Minnesota in the Kirk revenge game. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Malik Neighbors at number 11 against New Orleans. the Marshawn Lattimore-List New Orleans Saints, and then Jacoby Myers, who again did not practice at Tampa Bay. If these guys play, they'll be great. Will they play? Who knows?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? I think the one guy I want to highlight is T. Higgins. I don't think people realize how good he's been this year. If you look on a points per game basis, he's wide receiver 3. It's Jamar Chase, it's Nico Collins, and it's T. Higgins. He's been incredible this year. And when him and both Jamar Chase are on the field, it's like the Rams. I know we talk a lot of times. People talk about Puka and Cooper Kupp being on the field in that offense. The Bengals offense is incredible from every perspective. So both of those guys are auto start players each and every week. With CeeDee Lamb, we just need him healthy. This game's got shootout written all over it. As long as CeeDee Lamb is in the game. If CeeDee Lamb is not in this game, I'm going to have a lot of concerns about this Dallas offense, right? Because it's Rico Dowdle. It's maybe Ferguson plays, maybe he doesn't. So you're dealing with Brandon Cooks might not even play. We don't know who's. Maybe it's Jalen Tolbert. Like, I don't want to do the Tolbert experience, man. So just stay healthy, Lamb. You should get double-digit targets. I know the Thanksgiving stuff was bad. They just got beat down, and then they just rested him because he was injured. Sometimes it happens. But so pay attention to practice sports. If he's healthy and he's practicing, you're going to want to fire up CeeDee Lamb because this is a juicy, juicy matchup.
Yep, totally agree. You need to be playing CeeDee Lamb. It just sucks that he's not practicing. We do not know what's going on. Drake London, I believe, is practicing. He was given rest on Wednesday. I hope he's practicing today. Holy crap, we'll have to wait and see. But he goes up against Minnesota. Not a great matchup, but Stephon Gilmore did not practice, and he didn't play last week. So we'll see if Gilmore comes back. If he doesn't, this is a much more, I guess, acceptable matchup for wide receivers. And last week, 16 targets. That doesn't hurt either. If Kirk Cousins decides to do Kirk Cousins things, which is, be boom bust, then maybe he booms in this one. It certainly is possible. At Minnesota, we know he's going to be here in the Boo Birds. And, maybe Kirk O'Chains comes out and he comes to play. And the one guy who benefits there is Drake London for sure. Malik Neighbors, we wanted to play Malik Neighbors a ton in the beginning of the year. Even with Daniel Jones, he started to kind of fall off. And now he's gone through a number of quarterbacks. It's Drew Lock this week. He did see 13 targets last week. Yeah. So are you comfortable with Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, comfortable might be stretching it a little bit, but I'm playing Malik Neighbors. It's a little bit risky because the offense just sucks, right? That just is what it is. Whether if it's Tommy Cutlets, that guy, or we get Drew Lock, whatever, whichever one of the two it is, you fire him up because he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Even as a rookie, the offense sucks, but it just lowers the floor. So it's similar to CeeDee Lamb. They're going to see a ton of targets. You know what it is, even though it's a worse offense. But the thing about the Saints is they can't cover anybody in the back end. It's just trash. And then I know that he got the targets because specifically the week before he was like, I don't know, man. Ask Dayball what the hell's going on. And they were like, yeah, hey, what's going on? Dayball's like, yeah, I probably should get this side ball, right? So yeah, it's him, it's Tyrone Tracy in an offense. They should get a ton of looks. So yeah, I like them.
Yeah, we know tiers 1 and 2. You want to propose to these guys. You want to lock them down for the long term. Tier 3, this is where you start to have your reservations. You're not totally sure. You're stringing it out a little bit just to make sure that this is where you really want to commit yourself to. And we'll start with wide receiver 13, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's great. You do want to lock that down, but against the Chiefs, injured, we'll see. That's why we've knocked him down a little bit this week. He's our wide receiver 13 in tier 3. George Pickens against Cleveland at wide receiver 14. We got Ridley at 15 playing Jacksonville. He should blow up. We'll see if Will Levis can actually get it to him. At 16, we got Jackson Smith and Jigba just doing crazy, crazy things over the last month of the season. He is going off. Can he do it against one of the best defenses of the last month of the season? We'll see. At 17, it's Tyreek Hill against the New York Jets. Sauce be damned. We'll see if Sauce Gardner plays in this one. We don't know. Devontae Adams at 18. He caught a touchdown last week. He was the apple of Aaron Rodgers' eye. Don't say that 5 times fast. But he rounds out our tier 3. So who do you like from this range, and who should we be the most comfortable starting?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Ridley. His role is awesome. It can, because he plays deeper down the field, it can have these weeks like last week where we only got 2 of the 7 targets. That's entirely in his range of outcomes. But he also could put up a 22-point burger where he catches 5 for 84 and 2 touchdowns. Or like he did in week 8, whereas against the Lions where he had 10 receptions, 143 yards. You kind of know the blow-up is always in his range of outcomes, but it's a good matchup. And I will say for the Jets wide receivers, like Devontae Adams is the guy that's leading them across the board in targets and first read targets and looks. With Rodgers, he's also getting the touchdowns and Garrett Wilson's not. So that's kind of the differentiator between the two of them. He's clearly the wide receiver one in that offense. No matter how much we like Garrett Wilson, we kind of have to knock it down. And I will say with JSN, I'm a little bit worried because he only got 4 targets last game. Now, the offense didn't really have to do a lot, but like he was not as involved as we wanted him to be. So I'm kind of looking at rankings, and I just like moved Brian Thomas Jr. above him because this should be a massive blow-up spot for Brian Thomas Jr. But yeah, like we're kind of back to that in-between-ish with JSN where we like him, we want to see it, but we're still seeing signs that show us like maybe it might not be there. But it's just like it's a decent floor each and every week with JSN.
Yep. Totally agree with all of that. One more thing we should talk about here is Tyreek Hill. 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Pretty standard stuff by Tyreek Hill standards, except for this season. Jonnu Smith has been getting in the way, but he literally stole a touchdown from the hands of Jonnu Smith last week. It bounced off Jonnu's and fell into Tyreek's. But weird yardage lines for Hill: 16, 61, 48, and 83 in his last 4 games. 83 was his second highest on the season. Tyreek Hill, what the hell are we doing? We just got to fire him up, Frank.
Yeah, you got to fire him up. We saw the usage last week, and it's like, all right, cool. Because if you remember watching that game on Thanksgiving, like, did not start out well for Tyreek Hill. Or like halfway through the game, I was in group chats. People are like, I should have benched Tyreek Hill. Like, this should not have been a good game. Yeah, and then, like, in the second half, they're like, all right, screw it. Let's just feed Tyreek Hill. And good things happen. We feed Tyreek Hill the ball. So sometimes it's that simple. Like, just do what you did with Tyreek Hill the year before. Just pepper the man with targets. Like, I know we love Jonnu Smith and everything, but, dude, you still got Tyreek Hill. Come on. Like, get him double-digit targets. If that happens in this game, he'll be fine.
Yep. Again, more questions here in Tier 4. Let's try and answer some of them now. We got wide receiver 19, Jaden Reed at Detroit. We absolutely love him in this matchup. He's probably far too low in our rankings. Well, I would bet that both of us move him up throughout the course of the week, especially if some of these injuries come through. DJ Moore at 20 at San Francisco. San Francisco has not been the difficult matchup it used to be, and DJ Moore is the clear one, although Keenan Allen's been catching all the touchdowns. Marvin Harrison at 21 against Seattle. We'll see if he can get by on these corners. I don't know. His talent says yes. His production so far has said no. Garrett Wilson at 22 against Miami. We just talked about Adams. I guess we'll talk about Garrett Wilson if we have to. Love him, but my dynasty teams do not at the moment. Brian Thomas Jr. At 23, another guy who's far too low. You talked about moving him up. We probably should at Tennessee. And then Jerry Jeudy, the darling of Jameis Winston, I guess. Listen, I think Jerry Jeudy has separated most of, if not all of the season. He was separating a lot last season. He's finally getting the ball due to all that separation, but he plays Pittsburgh, so he's all the way down at 24. Who do you like in this? We need to think about it a little more too.
Jeudy worries me a little bit because they didn't have Tillman last week, and they consolidated the targets around him, so I don't expect him to see that insanely high target share that he saw last week where he was just doing everything. He had a great game. No one's taking that away from him, but I think it's going to consolidate around the 3 of the guys that it did previously before, where it's like Moore, it's Jeudy, it's Tillman, and it's Pittsburgh, right? It's a tough matchup. So he's going to be on the outside. It's difficult. You have to win. I will say with Brian Thomas Jr., man, the guy's just incredibly talented. Like, he's doing things as a rookie that, like, polished veteran wide receivers do not do because he's just this explosive monster who's a complete NFL wide receiver he was busted, like he was drafted as a guy with upside. He's clearly showing that even in a bad situation with Mac Jones as quarterback, he still got 10 targets last week. He can get there again in this game because they really don't have much else, right? Like there's not much else in that passing game. It's him and Evan Ingram. Yeah. That's it. Like that's it, right? So it's going to be those 2 guys the rest of the season. It's going to be up or down, similar to Calvin Ridley. Like, I think these guys should probably be a lot closer in rankings because it's kind of the same thought process with both of those guys, right? They're both playing deep down the field. They're going to catch the big boom shots. They're both, he's more explosive than Ridley, but Ridley's role is awesome. It's just he has less competition. So, overall, yeah, I think they're Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson's fine. He's just not the true wide receiver one we wanted him to be. So, he kind of falls in this range. And this is more, a knock on Aaron Rodgers and that offense as a whole. It's really hard to consistently support 2 top 24 wide receivers when they're not, it's not that good of an offense. And Aaron Rodgers has struggled this year. So that's kind of the issue with it. So they kind of follow that back end range. But, you're still playing him unless you have really good options, which, contending teams might. These teams that are like the 6, 7 seed, they might not have better options. So you kind of got to find out there.
Very true. To your point on Jerry Jeudy, last week he absolutely went off with 13 targets. But the week before, when they played Pittsburgh, he only had 6 targets. The big difference, Jameis threw the ball twice as much last week as he threw against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 58 times. Jameis threw the ball last week, just 27, which for Jameis was a season low in the 5 games that he started by far, by almost half. So Pittsburgh Steelers, we know they're going to limit this offense in some way. Listen, when you throw the ball 58 times, everybody gets double-digit targets. Jerry Jeudy, no exception. He has seemingly been the number one, but like you said, potentially the return to Cedric Tillman, maybe Njoku gets more involved. We'll have to see what happens in this game, but it is not a great matchup for him. So those are our wide receiver 2s, our tiers 3 and 4. You have questions, but you're considering it. Here we're getting to friend zone territory. We are starting at tier 5. DK Metcalf starts us off. We hate the matchup against Arizona. They're going to look to shut down this passing game, and they're going to get after Geno Smith. I do not love DK this week, but I'm going to cross my fingers, play him, and pray. Keenan Allen at 26. He's been catching all the touchdowns, getting a ton of targets too. Absolutely crazy for Keenan Allen at San Francisco. Should be another smash spot for him. We'll see if he can keep the touchdown streak going. Juwan Jennings at 27 versus Chicago. Not a great matchup, but he is necessary in that offense. Jamison Williams at 28. This is probably too low, but this is how the boom busts go for Jamison Williams. A lot of mouths to feed there in Detroit. At 29, Devonta Smith. He's probably playing. They are playing Carolina. We'll have to see. He hurt me bad not playing last minute. I had to start guys like Nelson Aguilar and Khalil Shakir in his place. Absolutely killed me. Speaking of Khalil Shakir coming in at wide receiver 30, did very little last week. He's at the Rams this week. As a result, I have banished him to the depths of wide receiver 38, but he's our consensus 30. These are the guys here. Jesse, do you want to put a ring on it for any of these guys?
Not particularly the last couple of guys you talked about. They're all super boom bust. Shakir still saw 7 targets. I mean, that game just got out of hand really quickly. The 49ers couldn't do much of anything. And Buffalo was like, all right, we don't got to do much. We're just going to go Josh Allen, YOLO mode. Like, good luck stopping us. Because Josh Allen in the snow in the winter turns into an actual buffalo. And you cannot stop this man in the snow. So it just kind of like, all right, like, Smith's weird because the offense is like, the team's just so good. They get into these game scripts where they don't need to feature him. Like, they've had a couple of games where these close, like, shootout game, like Cincinnati, Jacksonville, he saw 7-6 targets. You see games with 3 and 2 and 4 targets just because he's not the focal point of that passing to him. And this is similar to Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams is just the explosive monster. He didn't play last time against Green Bay, so they're getting him back. I'm assuming they want to showcase the speed and everything they have because they're on the track. You could let it fly with Jameson Williams. I would not be shocked to see Jameson Williams catch a deep touchdown. I have him as a top 20 wide receiver this week. I like him. Yep. And as much as I like Juwan Jennings, I think he's a very good wide receiver. The offense is just in shambles right now. So against Chicago, that's the strength of their game is the back end. Like, that's where the strength is. So we'll see, but he's just such a good talent, and he's been so good this year. You kind of just bet on him and hope it works out. I could see him having double-digit targets. I don't know how efficient it's going to be, but if he gets double-digit targets, he should be okay. More of a high floor play this week than ceiling.
Yeah, and to your point on Devonta Smith, he hasn't been necessary. That defense has been awesome. This was our concern going into the season. It has been one of the few things that I was concerned about that came to fruition. Sometimes we get things right. But Devonta Smith is really boom bust this year as a result, unfortunately. But I do have a question about our wide receiver 2 overall this week, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is consistently getting the targets where Smith is not. But Jesse, how many times has A.J. Brown received double-digit targets in a game this season?
Oh, probably not been that many. I'll probably say like 3, would be my guess.
Once in week 1, he had a couple of 9-target games, a lot of 8 and 7-target games. But yeah, that is the concern. Let me ask you, how many times has Devonta Smith received double-digit targets in a game this season? This is a trick question, so use your powers of deduction.
Well, I know he had at least 1 earlier in the year. I'll say because you're asking this question about both of them, I say hey, at least 2. We'll go with 2.
He's had 2. He's had 2. 8, 10, and 10 targets in the first 3 weeks of the season. Since that time, has not seen more than 7, and typically seen those 2, 3, and 4 target games like you've mentioned. It's been a rough run out for Devonta Smith in this middle portion of the season. Maybe he gets it back, but I don't know, man. They don't need him. Saquon Barkley is absolutely cooking. Jalen Hurts is scoring all the touchdowns. Who cares? Yeah, it's a shame. I easily played JMO over him. And yes. I have Devonta Smith ranked higher because of the matchup, and I think I need to change that.
I'm with you. Yeah, that was my thought process too. I was like, yeah, I'm firing him up. Let's do this.
Yeah. Let's move on to our tier 6. I think this will be our last tier. And then we'll talk about the best of the rest. But tier 6 here is wide receivers 31 through 36, if my math is correct. We got Deebo Samuel at Chicago. We got Jordan Addison at Atlanta. Darnell Mooney in that Kirko revenge game at Minnesota. DeAndre Hopkins facing the Chargers. Adam Thielen at Philadelphia in a terrible matchup, but he's Adam Thielening all over the place. And Jalen Waddle coming on in recent weeks, wide receiver 36. Can he do it again? We'll see.
Yeah, Waddle still only saw 4 targets last week, right? So this Waddle falls in that Smith tier where they're just not the featured focal point of the passing attack. And it's kind of, particularly Waddle, like he's dealt with Devon Achane seeing time targets and also Jonnu Smith stepping forward. So it'd be like if Philadelphia, Dallas Goedert was like, nah, dude, I'm the number 2 on this team, step aside. Yeah. So yeah, Waddle is extremely hard to trust. I know we talk about the Jets defense is taking a massive step forward. I don't feel great about Waddle. With Hopkins, it's just like it's been so just okay. Hasn't really been great. I mean, he saw 90 yards last week, but only 4 receptions. If it's PPR league, it's okay. If it's not, you're kind of like, it's not great. I do want to highlight Mooney because the Vikings give up the second most, basically points to the position because teams just do not run against them. And they just, in the second half of the week, they just canceled out. They're like, you know what? Throw the ball. So if Mooney's healthy, which we don't know, he's dealing with an Achilles and a rest thing. So this is the big if. I'm going to massively boost him up rankings, but I do like the upside scenario he possesses because early in the season when he was healthy, Darnell Mooney was cooking. Now it's been kind of up and down because he's been dealing with an injury. But, he did have a non-participant rest day on Wednesday. We'll see if he practices today. If he does, I have a little bit of hope for him. But he kind of stands out among these guys in this range because, dude, it's just been so bad with Deebo. It's really hard to even trust him right now. We have him there by default, but you don't feel good about starting Deebo. Just not at all.
Yep, totally agree with your points on these guys. Adam Thielen last week against those terrible Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 10 targets, 8 for 99. He did also score a touchdown, was the wide receiver 6 on the week. Adam Thielen is back, but you want to play him in plus matchups like next week against Dallas. This week against Philadelphia, it's not looking good for Thielen in his passing attack, but I think he will see volume and he'll be out there a ton. If he can get over on these rookies in that secondary, it's possible that he could have a decent day, but we're not expecting fireworks from that offense. So, yeah, I think you probably have better options. Let's talk about the best of the rest here. There's a few names I'll throw out, and then anyone else who you want to talk about. We got Amari Cooper at wide receiver 37. I think he has an opportunity to absolutely go off in this game. He's finally healthy. There's no weather issues going on. He's integrated into this offense. He should be able to go off against the Rams in a good matchup on a fast track. Willie, I don't know. He's our wide receiver 37. We got Mr. Touchdown himself, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, NWITD. He is absolutely crushing and faces Jacksonville. We got MBS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling at 40 against the Giants. That should work out as well. Xavier Worthy more involved at 43. Parker Washington went off at 45. Who do you like in the best of the rest range here, and who are you excited to play this week?
It might sound like a bad matchup for Elijah Moore, but him being the slot wide receiver in this offense gives him a lot of free, easy looks. And we've seen consistently he's been up there in targets, even when Tillman's going to come back. I don't mind finding a shot on Tillman as well. I kind of want to attack this game, see how it goes with Jameis. MVS, you know what you're getting. It's just YOLO ball. This is just take the touchdown if he doesn't get it. Same thing with Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. He's seeing more targets. It's Jacksonville. He could hit because we consistently just write him off. But at a certain point, you got to take this guy seriously. Even though he has some absurd 30% touchdown rate on his catches, it's just nuts. But can he keep it going? I don't know. Maybe he rolls 7 again once another week and he scores another touchdown. Yeah, just some people are living right. It's just Amari Cooper. Yeah, man. You almost kind of want to see it with Cooper because he's dealt with injuries for so long and he just has not been that guy. And even last week, what was it? 2 fantasy points. It's just I mean, we'll hope for it. I'm just gonna wait on Cooper until we see it because even earlier in the year, I know it was Deshaun Watson-led offense. He just was not very good, and that's the thing that more has me worried. But you get into these deeper guys, you talk about You want to take a shot on Tyler Lockett against Arizona? Not particularly. Dontavian Wicks in the shootout, maybe. We just saw David Moore. Everybody was picking him up the week before. There's a couple guys in this range. I don't mind Keon Coleman against the Rams, who's really far down in our rankings. Yeah. I think he stands out as like guys when you're looking kind of desperate on waivers. He stands out as if he's healthy, he's been a really good player for that offense, Josh Allen. So I like as the dart throw of all of these guys. It's like I view him as kind of like a Christian Watson, similar, where you're taking the upside shot and see if it works out for them, even though it's
yep. I love those calls. Question for you for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, since they're bye in week 5 for the Titans, how many touchdowns has Nick Westbrook-Ikhine scored in 8 games?
Well, it's like I think he's got a touchdown every game, so it's got to be like 8. Does he have double digits in one of those? He might have more. I'll say at least he's got 8. Like he's up there in the league leaders touchdowns. It's nuts.
He's got 8 touchdowns. He scored 2 last week. He missed 1. He didn't score in week 10 against the Chargers, just 3 for 31, a super letdown game for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Otherwise, he's been at least a high-end wide receiver 3. But in the last 3 weeks, wide receiver 9, 19, and 8, he's been absolutely crushing for you. And he plays Jacksonville. Like, you have to fire this man up. It might not be a good matchup next week. Oh, wait, he plays Cincinnati. Oh, maybe you can't use him if you get deep into the fantasy playoffs. He plays Indianapolis and then Jacksonville again. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard. These guys are league winners. They shouldn't be, but they are. The schedule is absolutely juicy. I think he probably continues it because there's nobody else. There's those 3 guys and nobody else on this offense. They get all the volume. And, everyone else be damned, future be damned. We don't care. We're not going to playoffs. We don't give a crap. We're just going to feed these guys. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, probably the youngest of the 3 at 27 years old. Doesn't make any damn sense. But here we are in 2024. So listen, let's not take any more time with this show. These are the wide receivers that you're relying on this week in the bye apocalypse. We wish you the best of luck trying to make the fantasy playoffs, secure the bye, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Move on to the Scott Fish Bowl, as we are with literally no players to play. You got to do what you got to do. And this week, you got to fire up some ugly, ugly choices. But look, hopefully, if they can bring you the fantasy championship ring, you will decide to put a ring on these guys for the future. But for now, for the present, we are going to sign off. We are the Fantasy Football Universe. I'm Jeremy Schulman. This is Jesse Moeller. We are available on all social media platforms. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. We very much appreciate that. We are live 4 times a week. We post daily content. We are everywhere that you want to be. Find us on your social media platform of choice. I've talked enough. Let's end the show. Good luck in week 14 and rolling in the fantasy playoffs. See you later.